great today this Sunday afternoon. And as you can see, we're coming to you live.
Yay!
We might be a little bit nervous, so you're going to have to bear with us. And we really appreciate the support because you guys probably know we do video all the time. But we don't really do it live.
No, we take a lot of takes.
We've gotten down to like 3 takes or less. Once in a while when we do 1 take, we're like, woohoo, you did it, girl. But today, this is a 1-take wonder. And we can't, so yes, good for you. You guys can, we'll see what happens here. But there's a good reason we want to do this. We've really seen some interesting shift in the market that Sarah's going to talk about real quick and why we're even here and doing this for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We have seen the market change so rapidly in the last month or two. And really, it's been a strong market for a while here in Georgia. We've been very lucky, but things have really taken off to a new level. And we just want to help you be successful. We want to help, give you the information you need to really understand what kind of market we're in. And if you're a buyer, how you can win in those multiple offer situations. And if you're a seller, how you can really maximize your profit and how you can make the process go really, really smoothly. So we just want to share some of the things that we're seeing every day.
Definitely. I think the big thing on that is it's just different. It's different for all of us than it was probably the last time you bought a house or you sold a house. And you kind of got to get your head around that. Otherwise, what I know we've all seen is it's taking 3, 4, 5 times to go after different houses before they realize, oh, I need to really rethink how I put an offer in on a home. Or as a seller, ooh, I picked the wrong one. Now I'm down to my 5th offer that I'm trying to make it work out and I'm worn out. So, that's what we're really trying to help you guys with today. So what we've done is we've been taking questions from you guys all week. We've also kind of talked with our team on questions that we've been getting a lot. And we've got 3 really strong buyer questions. And then we're going to start with 3 really strong seller questions. And then any other questions you have, we're going to try to field them and get you guys the answers that you need. But of course, if we run out of time, because we're only keeping it to an hour, if we run out of time, we will make sure to get on with you all one-on-one and make sure that your questions are answered, because that's what we're here for. So Mom is going to be the one that is going to be kind of keeping us in line. She's going to whip us into shape, keep us in line, keep this moving along for us. So what you got for us, Mary Ellen?
One of the most asked questions is, how's the market right now for sellers?
So it's low inventory is really like the name of the game. That's what you're going to hear everybody saying, which in turn is really great if you're a seller because you don't have a whole lot of competition right now. A lot of times we're seeing a home go on the market in a neighborhood and it may be the only home in that neighborhood for sale. So we've just got this perfect situation of we have a lot of buyers that are moving to our area. We have people relocating from other states. We have people coming from Atlanta that don't have to worry about commuting anymore because they're working from home and now they have the ability to, hey, let's move a little bit further out. We can get a little more space, more house for the money. And our area has just become really, really popular. And then you've got the interest rates are just ridiculously low. Yeah. So what we have is just this imbalance of supply and demand. And so if you're a seller, it's really an awesome time to take advantage. If you've been thinking about selling and not sure when the time was right, right now is a great time. I mean, to really maximize your profit and take advantage of the conditions we're seeing right now.
I think so. And I think, with all that good for sellers, there comes a host of challenges too. I mean, I know we're starting to see appraisals become challenges, like what Sarah said. If you're the only house in a neighborhood and you've got 10 buyers that have been just kind of honing in on that neighborhood, then of course you're going to see the price go up, but then there's nothing to support it. So, there's some things as a buyer's agent or a listing agent that you've really got to be able to do to work for your client to be able to get pricing where it needs to be because of that imbalance.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I think you've got also, we'll talk about this a little later too, but from a buyer perspective, once you've lost 2, 3, 4 homes and you're like, well, I'm just going to pay way over. I'm just going to get this house. But then what might happen is they get buyer's remorse. And we've seen that happen too. And it's really for a seller, how do I think about picking the right one and the one that's going to follow through and make sure that you can kind of ultimately sell for the maximum profit and get where you need.
Yeah, absolutely. The shift kind of becomes not just getting the most money, but making sure you're actually going to close and it being a smooth process. So that's where we're really having to step in and make sure that we facilitate that all the way through to make sure things aren't falling through.
Right.
And people are wasting a lot of time.
wasting a lot of
Yeah.
time.
Another
Absolutely.
really good question is, I want to sell, but I have nowhere to go.
This is a great question. We get that a lot too, because
Yes.
I think there's a lot of people, a lot of sellers that would like to take advantage of the market. But, what's your price of being inconvenienced? I think that's what it comes down to. I think everybody's kind of got that price tag. Some might be, for 10 grand, I'd live in my mom's basement. I would not do it for 10 grand. Sorry, it'd be a lot more. But, and some might be a lot higher than that. So I think it's really trying to figure out and working with a experienced agent that can kind of help you see, like, look, this is what you can expect right now if you did sell your house. And it's going to be a lot more than what it was a year ago. So, and who knows what it'll be 6 months from now. So right now, like Sarah said, it is a perfect storm. It's figuring out, if you want to maximize that and be inconvenienced. One thing that we've got, I think that maybe it makes sense to spend a minute on is like on our blog right now, it's live on our website right now. It's just got a list of just some different ways that you can think about to be creative with that timing. If you did sell, where am I gonna go? So some different things that we've talked about, and we have one client right now that is in Avalon. They are living in an apartment in Avalon until their new house is ready. They are a wonderful family, and it made sense for them. That was their cost of inconvenience. But you know what? It's been fun because they're living in Avalon. I think that would be so cool. And Avalon takes pets, so that's kind of a cool thing. We've got someone else that, not the mom's basement, although that could happen. Maybe hers will be up for rent. But maybe you have a friend where you could stay for a little bit, or maybe there's a long-term or a short-term rental that you could get. The long-term rentals get a little bit dicey because all of a sudden you're really not saving much money right now.
Yeah.
And you're locked. You're locked for that year. So there's some apartment options. There's VRBO. But what I think would be really cool, if you are flexible and you are like what we were talking about, you could work from anywhere. Your kids are maybe being homeschooled. Maybe you don't have kids at home. Go to the beach. Go to the mountains and ski. Really mix it up. Mix your life up. This is a time like we've never had before, and I think it'd be really neat to see those stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm
So
jealous
tell
of
us, why do we need an agent? Why do we need to work with an agent?
Yes.
That's a fun question to
Yes,
get
it
when you're an
is.
agent.
Yes.
Why do I want you?
Right. So I think there's that, and understandably so, there's a perception out there that it's so easy to sell my home right now. Why do I need an agent? I can do this myself if there's so many buyers out there. It's easy. We touched on this a little bit about all of the chaos that can kind of ensue, even when you have a multiple offer situation. Picking the right offer is critical, and having an agent that can really help you go through all of those and understand all of the terms of the contract. It's not just about the price.
Yeah.
It's about all of the contingencies that might be in there. It's about the financing, how qualified, what will this buyer do if the house doesn't appraise. All of those things, just really navigating through. We've seen it all, and we've gotten through many different hurdles and challenges that I think a lot of sellers on their own would end up spinning their wheels and
Oh my gosh.
waste a lot of time and end up with contracts that just keep falling through. So I think that's really key, not just having an agent, but an agent that can really
That is really experienced. And not to toot our own horn, but we've got quite a bit of experience, and I'll let Mom think if she can add up all of our experience on these
that's a
couches.
lot.
we've
Too
really seen just about every
Everything.
situation possible. Every time I say that, there'll be a new one this week, but I think that really comes into play because you don't know what's going to happen. It's a new set of hurdles and challenges right now, and to be successful, sometimes we draw not only upon each other and our experiences, but our friends and network that we have across the nation because, let's face it, California's had this problem for a long time. So we've got a lot of agent partners there that we're like, okay, how do you navigate this? How can we stay ahead of it versus, representing buyers that are, again, into that third, fourth, fifth deal and still not getting anything. It's this constant chaos.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that.
And I think there's that, misperception that you're saving money by not using an agent. But in reality, when you look at all of these different things, a lot of times people are profiting more when you use an agent because we are, when it comes to the appraisals, helping it appraise for higher amounts, all of these things, navigating it through, in the end, you're actually going to do better.
Yeah. Definitely. I think what we have found too is there's lots of different stages of marketing that we can do for our clients. There's there's coming soon, there's working into our database, there's really building up that momentum before a house comes on the market. And when it comes on the market, creating that perfect storm of, you know, getting a lot of offers, making sure you can pick the right one and working through that. And if you don't have, and honestly, putting it on all the sites that it should be on.
Yeah.
There was a deal that we just closed, I guess it was not last week, but the week before. You know, I hate to say it, but the agent only put it on one of the MLS systems. And it should have been a house that got multiple offers. We were the only one.
Oh, wow.
But it was because
People
it was
didn't know
on
about
Georgia MLS and not FMLS, which is where all the agents search. So you know what? You just gotta also have that partner that's gonna look full scale at everything that's available. Because it's not the same. It's not just going on to, you know, whatever site to find your house. You gotta really have somebody on your side from a selling perspective too, to make sure you're everywhere you need to be to capture that person.
Yeah.
So those 3 questions were the most asked questions, and here are some other ones.
There you
If
go.
I get more than one offer on my home, how do I decide which one to pick?
That's a good one.
It
You want
is.
to take that or me?
You want to- you-
Okay,
You go
we'll
ahead.
take it.
Yeah.
So you can only pick one offer, right? You can't, and that's one thing that I've actually had that conversation
had
with
that
sellers
too.
before. They're like, well, this is great. Let's go back to everybody and see if they'll
Or-
do this.
Or how about when they say, let's just keep it on a few more days and keep collecting all these perfect
Yeah.
things, you know, like that's the one I'm like, oh no, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, true. So you can only pick one. And so we've talked about a few times, it's not always about the highest price, although that's absolutely our goal is to get you the highest price, but we want to look at everything. And in the end, which one is the most likely to actually close? Which one's going to follow through? So you want to definitely look at those things. And then also, I mean, the seller kind of has the ability right now to kind of set the standard for what they need. So if you're a seller and you're building a house and maybe your house isn't ready yet, and you've got a buyer who says, that's fine, I'm willing to let you, we'll go ahead and close and we'll let you lease back and stay in the house a couple months. A seller may prefer that convenience of being able to make that move and transition smoother for them. That might be more important to them than getting $10,000 more for the house.
Right.
So it's really just going through the whole process, looking at the big picture, and trying to figure out which one makes the most sense for your situation.
Definitely.
I'm thinking of selling, but I'm worried about having people in my home during COVID.
I think that's a question that's been, I
That's
mean,
a
it's
big
been
one.
coming up
That's a
since
big
March, so we've been tackling this and that has definitely evolved, but right now there are some, I would almost call them standard showing practices, wouldn't you guys?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
We've
There's a-
been doing this for a few
For a
months
bit.
now. We've kind of
Yeah.
figured it
We've
out.
kind of,
yeah.
we have kind of figured it out. So, you know, just if you're a seller and you're concerned about this, I think what you can really expect is, you know, agents to be masked. Gloves, you know, if you want gloves, I will say, if they're not provided, people probably aren't using them, but if you put it in the notations of the listing, they will be worn. We've had booties. I'm not sure if COVID's on booties or not, but I feel like I've seen more of that being asked. The things that you can control as a seller that really helps you so you don't go crazy, like, are people touching my things and
Yeah.
I'm worried about it. Some things that help is, you know, keep all the lights on, keep those interior doors open. So it just limits who's kind of touching things in your home, because really it should just be the agent that's opening, you know, the exterior doors and showing the home around. Also limiting the time in your home. We're seeing that be a big thing now. You know, try to keep it to under 30 minutes. Limiting the number of people in your home. Today we were going to show a house and I noticed on there it said 4 people or less. There's something we've put together for our clients, especially the ones that are very, very concerned, and everybody should be concerned, but there's some that are like, I do not want anyone in my house that doesn't do X, Y, and Z. So, you know, of course, we've got it in our private remarks to agents. They're getting a phone call about it. It's on their front door. There's a great little, you know, handout, which we're happy to provide if anybody wants it as an example, you know, of just things to think about before you enter the home.
Yeah.
And of course, there's always that hand sanitizer.
Oh, yes.
Right when you walk in, it's right there. So
Yeah.
just good reminders.
Well, and I think what we're seeing a little bit too, I think agents on both sides are doing a really good job of making sure nobody's a looky-loo right now. If
No.
you're going in someone's house in this time frame with COVID out there, you're a serious buyer, you've been pre-approved, you are ready to make a decision in the next few days. You're not someone that's just kicking tires. Because really that's pretty disrespectful to the sellers in this environment to just kind of be wandering around their house when you're not real serious. And I think that's one good thing that's come out of this is that when you have a showing, you know, they're serious buyers
Yeah.
most of the time.
And I think too, it goes back to whoever you use, hopefully it's our team, But if it's not, it's the power of video and great photography, because if there's ever been a time it's been more important, it's right now. I mean, it's getting that buy-in from the buyers. Hopefully they already love it. You know, that's our goal, to already have somebody love your home before they even enter it. So that's become, again, more important and helps alleviate any looky-loos or anybody not serious.
Yeah.
They should be very serious when they're coming into your home right now.
So should I wait to sell? Will the market get better?
We've been asked that for how many years?
Yeah.
I've been doing this 18 years now.
Always,
Yeah.
always.
Yes, and we don't have a crystal ball, so we
Right.
don't know. You know, if we learned anything from this last year, is anything can change at a moment's notice. What we do know right now is it's a great time to sell. We know that the demand is there. We know the buyers are out there. We know the inventory is low.
Mhm.
So we know it's a great time now. If any one of those things changes, then the market will change and things will shift. And so, you know, right now the outlook is good. You know, there's no reason to be afraid that things will change, but I mean, we just don't know. All we know is that right now it's a really good time. So,
Yeah.
Definitely.
I would love to sell now, but I have too many expensive projects to do. What's your advice?
I think I would want to know more what those expensive projects are.
oh yeah, definitely talk to us first.
Right.
Because we can help them determine if it's worth it or not. I mean, it really depends.
Right, if it's
Yeah.
something that's gonna hinder your sale, or you think it's, you know, maybe the inspector won't find it, they're gonna find it. So if your HVAC's not working, or you've got a big hole in your roof, or you've got
Fix it.
critters in the attic, or things that could really cause a sale to not happen,
Mhm.
those are the kinds of things you really need to do. There's a lot of things that maybe you didn't need to do, maybe you don't need to do now that you needed to do a year ago, and some of those might be, you know, you always wanna have it painted fresh, I can't even talk today, make it nice and show ready. But we can really, you want to work with your agent to figure out what's the most important and where those
Mhm.
dollars are going to serve you well. And there's a lot of pay at close options available right now. We've got several at our disposal that we're happy to talk to you about. And so you know what that is. It's basically like a 0%, think of it as a 0% credit card, and it's just paid at the closing. So that's a really nice option too, especially if you're buying a house. So then maybe, you know,
Mhm.
it won't show on, it'll be a little bit more positive that way too.
Definitely, because what we're seeing is a lot of people have quite a bit of equity in their home, so they've got the money to pay for this stuff once they close, but they may not want to invest it up front until after they close. So this is kind of a way to take advantage of your equity ahead of time by doing those things. And one thing I just wanted to add about that is, you know, again, I think a lot of people might have the perception that because the market's so strong, they don't have to work as hard to sell their home and do things. But keep in mind, if you're a buyer and you got into a bidding war over a house and you're
Yes.
paying over asking price and, you know, maybe over appraised value for a house, you do have an expectation that that house is going to be in good shape.
Mhm.
You have an expectation of what you're getting. Otherwise, that's where we're seeing the buyer's remorse.
You are.
So I think that, you know, if you want to get the top dollar for your house, then you really do need to present it in a way where the buyer feels like it's worth it and, you know, they don't regret that decision that they made to.
And this is a similar kind of on that topic. I think what we've always found is buyers seem to be able to get their head around one project. You know, if it's like, ooh, this bathroom needs remodeled, or ooh, you know, like a fence needs repaired, or something that they can do. But when it starts to add up,
Mhm.
you've got multiple offers, and then they go over list price, all of a sudden that doubt builds and the buyer's remorse, and all of a sudden it's too much, I'm out.
Yeah.
So we've seen that firsthand. So it is, Sarah's right. You know, you want to make sure you've shown that you've taken care of your home, because it will pay for itself later.
It will, yeah.
So I think we've actually covered
Yeah,
all of
all
our
the
buyer
seller
questions, or seller questions,
Yes.
sorry, all of our seller
Awesome.
questions. We've got some great buyer side questions, and again, some of these hinge both ways, but if you're buying and selling at the same time, and there's a lot of people in that situation, because you really need somewhere to go, we'll get onto that topic too, but Mom's gonna take us on the path of some, the top asked buyer questions.
Yes, the top one is I can't find a house. What are some strategies to help me?
Do you want me to
Yes.
start that one?
Yeah.
Okay, here,
Go
I'll
ahead.
just take
I'll
it.
chime in
Okay,
with
yes.
some good tips.
I love that. Help, I can't find a house. And I do
Yeah.
think that if you are a buyer right now, you have maybe experienced that, and we've touched on that on the seller side. But if you can't find a house, I think the number one thing is make sure you've got the right team on your side. It's not just, again, scanning the internet to try to find that house. There's so many other strategies that you need to have a good team on your side to look at. So it could be, you know, their database that they work in, like we talked about earlier. It could be, you know, really honing in on a neighborhood. I mean, heck, we've made tons of phone calls on behalf of buyers. We've used our social media to try to get to people. We've used our email database to get to people, because it's really trying to turn up some homes that just aren't there right now.
Right.
So I think that's really an
Because if
important thing.
something's on the market and it looks great and the price is great, by the time you've seen it, you're almost already behind. So we're
Yeah.
trying to get ahead of it for our clients before that happens.
Definitely. On kind of that note too, if you're a buyer, you gotta commit to it right now. If there's something like Sarah said, good that comes on, you need to be there day one. You know, you can't be like, oh, I'll go see it this weekend. No, it probably won't be there. So you gotta really make sure that you are committed to the process and you have an agent that's committed to the process too. There is no, we wrote this down and I think it's so true. There's just no longer the day of sleeping on it or like we said, waiting to the weekend. You can't go see it and be like, you know, maybe
the weekend.
maybe we'll go see it
Yeah.
again, or I don't want to make a decision. You gotta commit. You gotta be ready because if not, it's gonna be gone, and then you're gonna have to wait another big chunk of time before something maybe half as good even comes on. So
You
just
basically
be ready.
You need to know what are your must-haves, what are
Yes.
the things you're not willing to compromise on, the most important things, and then know what are the things that you can deal with, so that
Yes.
if a house comes on that meets that, there may not be another one that checks all of those boxes. So if the one that really does check the boxes of your non-negotiables and things that you have to have, then, you know,
You're right.
yeah.
And I think that kind of goes along with the idea of being flexible overall. You know, flexible in what kind of home you might want and what things you can give on and what things you absolutely want. Will not give up on. And I agree. I don't think that you should. I think there's certain things that you
Mhm.
got to just make sure you don't get too excited about a new home, but then you realize, oh, it didn't have these 3 things that I like. I kind of have to have.
Yeah.
So, but on the flexibility too. I had another thought on that. And I'm not sure where it went. Oh, on the other side of it, you know, when you do find the house that you want, maybe that seller, you know, like we said on the seller segment, maybe that seller really wants to lease back, or maybe they, you know, there's certain things that they want. Maybe you as a buyer just need to be flexible and give that up. You know, even though you don't want to live with your mom for an extra 60 days, maybe you should just so you can get that house that you really
If she
want.
lets you.
We're making a lot of assumptions here,
Yeah,
aren't
we are. I think one other thing I have down here is new construction. You know, that can still really be a good option for most. And I think we've sold several new construction right now. Some that
Yeah.
are willing to wait the 6 months till the build time is up.
Mhm.
Some that are spec houses that are ready right now. We're not seeing tons of negotiation there, but what we are for sure seeing is, or for sure not seeing, are multiple bids.
Yes,
Yeah.
typically if you come to the builder with your deposit check and you're ready to put that deposit down on the lot and start building a home, they're not going to continue collecting offers from other people. Once you put that check down, you are putting a reservation and it's yours. So it does take a little bit of that stress off, I think.
I think it does too.
It can be a little bit limited as far as what they might have available right now because they are selling. They're selling really well, but you know, if you find one that's available, then you can kind of avoid that whole multiple offer situation that can be really stressful. So,
Yeah, that's good peace of mind, for sure.
So when we find a house, how do we make our offer the best and make it stand out?
Well, as you've been hearing, and we've been talking a lot, is if it's that perfect home, it's probably gonna have multiple offers.
Yeah.
If it's ready to go and a good price point, you know, that's what you can really expect. So I think there's a couple of things. I think, you know, one we were talking about earlier is setting your budget. You know, maybe you don't go to the top of your budget with what you're looking for because you need to build in a little padding because you might be paying over, or you might be getting it at a certain price, but it's got some work that needs to be done. So those are some things you want to work with your agent on and being, you know, strategical on how you think about a budget. I think another is price. And like we've talked about, you know, you probably are going to need to pay at or above list price depending on that listing. And depending on that neighborhood and what you're looking for and what others are looking for too. So, you know, we've got some that have gone, you know, as much as 25, 50, even higher than that, over and above list price. Price is not always the most important thing. Again, sometimes it's whatever those seller needs are. You just need to kind of keep that in mind as you look at different homes, on. I think financing is another good one too to be thinking about. You know, we are seeing cash deals. We've always kind of seen a sprinkling of cash deals. Right now, I feel like there's less because rates are so good. Most people don't want to tie up their money. But what would be a really smart thing to do is to get a very strong lender partner that can get you all the way approved. So you still have no finance contingency, a zero finance contingency. And what's great about it is, as a buyer, then you don't have any surprises. You know what your payment's going to be. you know, with respect of maybe the only differences are what your taxes and, you know, your HOA fees might be. So I think that's a really smart thing to do. And again, we've got great lender partners if anybody needs a referral for someone that can take you that way, that distance, because a lot of them don't want to put in the time, because it's a lot of upfront work. You're basically being taken through the entire underwriting process. But again, I think it pays for itself in the long run.
Another thing that our lender partners are willing to do for our clients is make a phone call on their behalf.
Yes, I love
And
that.
call the listing agent and vouch for, hey, I've already, you know, I have checked out all of this, I've looked at their income documents, I've pulled their credit, I've looked at their tax returns, and just, yes, I am very confident we will close this buyer. And if your lender isn't willing to do that for you, then you're already, you know, again, you're kind of behind, because sellers have to assume the worst, you know, they have to assume, well, this person may not close. So any peace of mind you can give them is gonna help your offer a lot.
Definitely. Another point that's always a sticking point to us too is due diligence. So what due diligence is it's the time that you can basically as a buyer get out of a contract for any reason, and your earnest money is protected. What it's supposed to be for is for your inspections, make sure you want to be at that house, you like the neighborhood, all those kinds of things. What I would say right now is do your due diligence up front. Save it for inspection only. But make sure you already love that neighborhood. Make sure you already, you know, are kind of bought into the schools, bought into everything about the area and what Publix you're going to go to, or whatever grocery store you're going to go to. Make sure you already are happy about all of those things. So then really you're just being smart about it, and maybe you're not even doing due diligence. Maybe you're just doing an inspection contingency. I know as a seller, that would give me a lot more peace of mind than knowing like, oh, they can get out for whatever reason they want, and now I'm
Sure.
back to square one.
And honestly, that can be the one thing that chooses a seller to go with an offer over yours.
Absolutely.
Because when you get multiple offers, a lot of times they're gonna be the same price, and they're gonna have to go down and look at all the other terms. And it could come down to this person asked for a 7-day due diligence period, where this one asked for a 10-day due diligence period. That 3 days could cost you getting the house over
Yeah.
someone else.
Well, and think of it too, we had this come up, we've had this come up in the last month. We had a virtual buyer of a home. They had already flown back to wherever they were from, and they sent their agent to do the virtual tour of it. They wanted to do it, or video tour of it. They wanted to buy it. They put in a very strong offer, but they had 10 days of due diligence. And it was actually the highest price of all of them. And the seller said, no, thank you. I mean, because what they're probably doing in all reality is they're gonna use those 10 days to fly out and make sure they like it. And, you know, that's not helping anybody right now. So, you know, it's unfortunate for those people that, you know, are away, but you've really gotta be serious. You've gotta be serious right now. Otherwise, you know, you're probably gonna lose the house. I think another thing is earnest money. You know, I think it's fair to say typical for resales is about 1% of the list price. New construction's a different ballgame, but I think when you're in a multiple bid and you want your offer to stand out, putting a higher percentage down, 2%, 3%, maybe you even jack it up to 5%, what you would be expected with new construction. Those are some things, again, that can show like, oh, these people are very serious with it. And then closing costs. You want to talk on that one? I think this is a good one.
You know, for so many years, even in a seller's market, it wasn't uncommon at all for the sellers to be paying some of the buyer's closing costs. You know, it wasn't uncommon for a buyer to offer, you know, maybe they'd offer full price, but they'd say the seller would pay all their closing costs. Well, right now, we're just not seeing that happen. It's pretty rare. So really, having your closing costs saved up and being prepared to pay your own, and what we're talking about is costs associated with your loan, your prepaid taxes, prepaid insurance, HOA fees, stuff like that. As a buyer, being prepared and having that saved up so that you can pay that. A lot of people have the conception that you can roll that into your loan, but what that really was is you were inflating the sales price and then having the seller pay those closing costs. But if we run into appraisal issues, that's not gonna work. So it's just, you know, that's one of the biggest changes I can say that has shifted, and it does make it a little more difficult for first-time home buyers to kind of get in the game, because they've already, you know, been trying to save up their down payment. You've gotta have those closing costs. We can certainly try to negotiate those in for you. It's not saying it never ever happens, but it's, you know, again, every little thing in your offer can count against you, and that's one of the things that you could lose a home over if you ask the seller for the closing costs.
How about
I
being
think-
a little creative?
Oh, I think being
Yes.
creative is huge right
Yes.
now. Especially if you've got, like, we had somebody with 14 offers, and it's like, how do you make, like, they're all perfect, they're all on their own in any other market, they would all be
Great.
beautiful and like a gift. But how do you make yours stand out? So some things that we've seen and we've done ourselves that are pretty cool is ring doorbell. I'm just gonna say there's one thing, and Inez, if you're listening, I know you said it this week, but assume you're always being watched because you
Yes.
probably are,
You
even when
are.
you're in someone's home. But use it to your advantage. You know, maybe you send a little message to that seller on your way out. We love your house. We, choose our offer. Maybe you just use it to your advantage. What you don't want to do is, and if my clients are watching right now that this happened to them, I still can't believe this happened. But literally, there were agents lined up to go into this gorgeous house that came on. It's the one that got all these offers, or one of the ones that got all these offers. 2 agents were fighting.
Yeah.
Their poor buyers were like, they could not believe that was happening. And it's all on tape. I'm like, you need to sell that, but I'm not gonna play. I don't have it, but I've seen it. So anyway, guess what offer they didn't want to pick when they saw somebody or an agent or their people that were going to be difficult to work with. So you can kind of scratch that off. So make sure you think about that you're always being watched.
Yeah, not just the ring doorbell at the front door either, even inside. I
Yes.
mean, honestly, don't discuss your offer in the house. Don't criticize their furniture in the
Yeah.
house. Don't sit down on their furniture by
No.
any means.
yeah.
People get really mad when you make yourself at home in their house.
Keep your kids with you because
Yes, don't your kids
Yeah.
run around.
don't let your
Yeah.
kids run around. We've got some crazy stories we will not share now.
We
but
have.
if you ever want to hear them, you can call. They're
Yes.
pretty funny.
We should probably never share it.
We should probably never share it. Actually, we won't. That'll be in our book that we write one day.
That's right.
Another thing that I thought was really cool, and we didn't do this, I didn't do this, but I might do it one day. The buyers sent my clients flowers.
Wow, that's really going
Yeah.
above and beyond.
It really
That's
went
awesome.
up with a
Yeah.
really sweet little letter. So, and that kind of bleeds into
Pull at their heartstrings a little
Totally,
bit.
I know, they were gorgeous flowers too, I tell you. And then that kind of goes along with the writing the love letter. And you gotta be careful about that. Right now, there's lots of talk about that in our agent life about,
Yeah.
making sure it's, okay from a fair housing
Mhm.
perspective, but I still think it's really strong. Just work with your agent to put a correct letter together that really talks about the pros of their home and why it works for their family.
And just being gracious. Thank you so much for letting
Yes.
us come see it.
It never hurts to put a pretty family picture. We've even had some that send like a video of why we want your house. There's just any kind of thing like that could help. I know you've left letters at houses before, like just a thank you.
I've had clients come home to like little post-it notes left on their counter that just said, "Oh, we love your home. Thank you so much for letting us see it." And that just makes them feel good. Sellers go to a lot of trouble to
They
get their
do.
house ready for showings and to come home and see that.
Would be appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know, Sarah, we actually added a question that I think you have, and Mom, you might not know yet. Did we add a question on the Sarah?
On what was it on? About the
On the buyer? Did we do this? Just a quick second. Remember it wasn't this one, but I don't think I might have it.
about the contingency.
It was gonna be about balancing.
This is huge.
This is huge.
This is a huge.
We scratched one big question out for this one because we knew you guys would want
Yes,
this.
we're like, oh yeah. So
Glad
what?
I remembered. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do if you have to sell your home before you can buy, and we're in this extremely competitive market? What do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do? So there's a few things you can do.
There is.
Contingencies are the way a lot of people would go about this in the past, which would mean you're going to make an offer and it's contingent on your own house closing first, which put all the risk on the seller. Because basically what happens if the buyer isn't able to sell their home in time, they get to back out of the contract and they get to keep their earnest money.
Yeah.
The seller gets nothing except for wasted time,
Right.
that they spent off the market. And we're just not seeing offers getting accepted with contingencies right now because there's just too much competition. Someone else who doesn't have a house to sell,
Right.
is going to beat out those offers. So we have to get creative and figure out what else, we can do. One thing is we had talked about just go ahead and sell your house first, and you may
Yeah.
have to move twice.
Right.
You might have to rent something. You might have to stay with family. It is going to be an inconvenience, but when you look at the big picture, what is that worth for you?
Right.
So that's going to be, one thing to consider. Bridge loans.
I was just
Not
thinking
everybody
that, yeah.
qualifies for those, but you want to explain how that works?
Yeah, it's kind of, it used to be a thing a long time ago, and I think it's kind of
Making its
morphed into
comeback.
making its comeback, but it basically allows you to carry 2 houses at once. And then once you close on, your first house, then you're able to kind of pay off the first loan, or the second loan rather, and then you can obviously move into your second and you have it. So you're kind of balancing two homes at once for a short time. That's the idea of it. And I think kind of on those same lines, if it's not a bridge loan, maybe you're approved to just buy the next one and carry the next one.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is just make sure your current home, you feel 100% confident that everything's going to go smooth, because it's really going to put you in a different situation when you're selling. You might, you want to be really smart about the things that you do so you can create the situation we're seeing with others that have this frenzy of buyers, and that if you're not having a lot of buyers that have issues with your house. So you've got to just kind of watch the balance of that. But I think really it's playing that timing game versus the comfort that you have of being a little inconvenienced or being a little risky. Where are you at on that continuum?
And really, I mean, that's always an issue in other markets.
It is.
What if it takes my house too long to sell, or what, it's just, we're seeing, timing is always tricky. No matter how the market is, it's very difficult to always time everything perfect, and there's gonna be a little bit of inconvenience involved. And, that's just, you just have to kind of go into it with the attitude of what are the benefits and what are the risks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a good one.
Uh-oh.
Should I wait to buy when the prices come down?
There's the crystal ball again,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, I know my clients that thought that last year are kicking themselves this year.
Yes, that's
I actually
really good,
have a buyer that just came back to me. We looked at homes last spring, and she decided to wait. And we're now looking at homes $50,000 over what her budget was last year, and they're the same homes. You know, it's unfortunately, and that would be equity she would have had she bought then.
And you've got to weigh that against, if you're in a situation where you're renting, because the rental prices are pretty inflated right now too, and you're locked in for most of those for a year if it's a true rental home. So I think you've got to weigh that too. Rates are really good right now too. I mean, who knows what they'll do? I'm sure they'll still be good for a long time, but right now they're insane. I've never,
It's hard to get much better.
It's really hard to get much better, so you can really buy a lot more house
Right.
for less money right now. So
Well, and that's the thing is when interest rates go down, the prices come up, and when interest rates go up, the prices come down. So
it all kind of works itself out.
So I'm relocating to the area, and I'm worried I'll miss the right house because I can't get there quick enough.
Okay.
What can I do?
I mean, we've seen that
Yes.
often. So
Yeah.
I think one thing is, of course, doing, like we talked about due diligence earlier, doing your due diligence up front, making sure that you know what you want, you have a firm understanding of the area, the schools, all of those things that are on your must-have list. Maybe your agent partner is one that's going to video chat with you and take you through the house. So again, then you're not going to have those reservations of, did I pick the right area? Did I this? Did I that? There's equipment that we have, like the Matterport, that can actually build floor plans if somebody really needed to kind of get their head around something. But what I would worry about is, like we talked about, a lot of sellers aren't going to fall for that due diligence game where you get to fly out real quick. I mean, maybe if it's a house that's been on a little bit, you can kind of build in a little bit of time for that, or you can write it contingent on my client seeing it. But put your shoes on, like if you were in those seller shoes, they're not going to really take that serious. They're We'll just see if there's anything else on that we talked about. I think the other thing is just once you are under contract and once we do get you the right house, the good thing is everything is pretty much virtual anyway. All of our paperwork. I mean, you can close virtually now. Like, there's just so many great things that I think, and learnings that have come out of this COVID year that does make it easier for somebody that is relocating from outside of our area.
Yeah.
So as a first-time home buyer, how much earnest money do I need?
Oh, okay, yeah. So we talked about earnest money a little bit. What has always been kind of typical, of course, earnest money, like everything, is negotiable in the contract, but 1% of the sales price is what we, pretty much have always seen. Again, if you want to make your offer, your financial standing look a little bit more strong and appealing to the seller, going a little higher than 1% is great. Keep in mind that money actually goes towards your down payment at closing. So it's money that is held in a trust account. It doesn't go into the seller's bank account or the seller's pocket. It goes into a trust account, and
A lot
it's
of people
basically
ask, where does that money go?
Yeah.
right.
Do I ever get it back?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it can't be spent or anything like that. It's sitting there waiting for closing, and then it will be credited back to your expenses at closing. But basically, it's your good faith money. Just showing the seller, they're taking their house off the market for you. It's may take you 30 or 45 days to close, and that money is just kind of there holding it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, on that note, it made me think about that YouTube series we did the last few months. If you guys check out our YouTube, we've got a great contract series for buyers, and it's really relevant to sellers too. That
Yeah.
just takes you through all the different contract points, and there's one whole thing that I think we dedicate to earnest money, but also due diligence, different finance contingency inspections, what have you. So if you've got other questions about that, that's a great resource, and of course, giving us a call anytime is a great resource too. We're always happy to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we have another
Are we
question.
to the end?
That's
That's
it.
it.
We're to the end.
Wow.
This is amazing. We
All
did
the
it.
questions.
We
Did we
did
get any
it.
questions?
Do we get any other questions? Awesome. I think we've
Right.
covered it all. So thank you all so much. Thanks to you guys too.
Thank
We
you.
did it. We did our first
I
one.
hope we didn't talk too fast.
I hope we did it. We probably could have done the whole stretch it out, but that's okay. It went great. And again, thank you all. If you have more questions, if we didn't cover something that is important to you, please reach out to us separately. We are always here for you. This is what we live and breathe. This is what we love to do, and we know we get to do this because of you. So as always, if you or someone you care about is thinking about a move, think about the whole team. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.